Good morning, my friends. This is Andy coming to you live from Ventura County. And just to let you know, if there's a little bit of a delay between my lips moving and you hearing what I'm saying, it's because I'm using my camera on my phone as opposed to the camera on the computer. The reason being is because when look at the difference, that's what my camera looks like there. So the camera on my phone obviously is way better. And so today we're going to be going into, of course, my utmost for his highest, the devotional for today, which is December 19th. And it's actually a really good one. But what I'm going to take you on is a little bit of a journey, is that because of the passage, it actually takes me to another book that I'm really not that familiar with. And Hetty and I were going over some of the passage and not the devotional, and then the passages related to the devotional. And then I saw a thing you could click on in the app that I'm using, which is called, what's that called again? Bible Gateway, right? Is that what it's called? Yeah, Bible Gateway. And it took me to Micah. And there's some stats in there that I want you to be aware of, because we are, when a pastor says we are horrible people, when we are sinners, I take offense to that, because I think I'm a pretty good guy. But there's a study done in British Columbia, which I'm going to share with you with some of the stats and the reason why, what they're saying when they say that about us is true. So the only thing I want to direct your attention to is the USPatriotProject.com. Go there. Next week, I'm hoping to be adding some videos to that platform, to the website. But in the meantime, you can still donate. You can still donate money to the cause. There is a nonprofit organization that you can, write off the donation. You just need to scroll down on the page where you donate, and it has all the information there. All right, go to the USPatriotProject.com. All right, I'm going to take that off because I'm going to be sharing my screen here and sharing with you the devotional for the day. We will talk a little bit about it, but I'm really intrigued by how sinful we are as human beings. Not me, of course. You guys are way worse than I am. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the devotional before I get carried away. All right, so I left the picture. When there's cool pictures, I love to show you guys what the picture looks like, but that's an awesome picture. It's not as great as the one, well, it is actually, it's pretty cool. It's equally as great as the one the other day where it had the Bible and the soil and then the small plant that was just sprouting. I love that picture. That reminds me of me. This one also reminds me of why I've changed my mind about Christianity, because I think I'm going to come back to my camera here for just 1 second. There was the thought that back in the day when I was all masculine and stuff, when I didn't cry so much, is that when I thought about being a Christian, that I had to let go of some of my masculinity. That men don't become Christians. You have to be a little soft to be a Christian. But that is far from the truth. As I've especially gone start attending a different church, and not that my old church was that. I'm just saying the church that I'm at now has really convinced me that it is the place that all men need to be. If you're going to be a godly man, if you're going to be a father, a husband, a leader in the community, especially a Christian who is a conservative Christian, is that a conservative, that being a Christian is where you want to be. It is not for the weak at heart and for people that are wusses. The discussion I had with Hetty today was we went into a whole bunch of different directions. And another thing that she reminded me of, I've talked about how back in the day, whenever we're talking about the Bible, when you go back to BC, or about the time that Christ was born and then was crucified and then after, that it wasn't one of the most difficult things you could be as a Christian. You're persecuted constantly. You were having to hide your Christianity in some cases, or if you said, "Yeah, I'm not going to hide it," you had to accept the fact that you were probably going to be killed, or crucified, or tortured, or whatever. Right? At some point, if somebody found out. But not only was that back in the day, but that's happening today. Eddie was sharing that here in the United States, we're pretty immune to that fact that people in Africa and people in China are having to hide their Christianity just to stay alive. It's not that they want to hide it because they're afraid of death, or they're afraid of their own skin, but to be able to build and to disciple and to bring other people to Christ, that it's a dangerous aspect of their daily life. And so we take it for granted here in the United States. So that was one of the important things. So back to the devotional. When I think that was important to kind of visit that, because when we look at this picture, when we look at this picture, that is what I see without even reading the devotional for the day. So the devotional for the day, December 19th, is the focus of our message. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. Matthew 10:34. Never be sympathetic with a person whose situation causes you to conclude that God is dealing harshly with him. God can be more tender than we can conceive. And every once in a while, he gives us the opportunity to deal firmly with someone so that he may be viewed as the tender one, he being God. If a person cannot go to God, it is because he has something secret which he does not intend to give up. He may admit his sin, but would no more give up that thing than he could fly under his own power. Wow, that whole thing right there is so true. It is impossible to deal sympathetically with people like that. Yeah, we must reach down deep in their lives to the root of the problem, which will cause hostility and resentment towards the message. People want the blessing of God, but they can't stand something that pierces right through to the heart of the matter. If you are sensitive to God's way, your message as his servant will be mercilessly and insistent, cutting to the very root. Otherwise, there will be no healing. We must drive the message home so forcefully that a person cannot possibly hide, but must apply its truth. Deal with people where they are until they begin to realize their true need. Then hold high the standard of Jesus for their lives. Their response may be, we can never be that. Then drive it home with them. With Jesus Christ says, you must. Let me try that again. Then drive it home with Jesus Christ says, you must. But how can we be? You can't unless you have a new spirit. See Luke 11:13. There must be a sense of need created before your message is of any use. Thousands of people in this world profess to be happy without God. But if we could be truly happy and moral without Jesus, then why did he come? He came because that kind of happiness and peace is only superficial. Jesus Christ came to bring a sword through every kind of peace that is not based on a personal relationship with himself. So many things came to mind that did not come to mind to me before when I was reading it. And Hetty and I were kind of going over it and going over some of the scripture related to the devotional, and that's one of the reasons why I think I have a tough time reading sometimes. It's not because I'm blind, although some people might say, "Hey, put on some glasses." Read, because the font's pretty big on the computer. The reason that I kind of lose track of where I'm going, because my brain is moving in so many directions, and I'm being reminded, and I'm being taught as I'm reading. Remembering that in the past, when I would read, it would just be print on a white piece of paper, right? And then you would just read it and you go through it. That's easy. But when you're reading it, actually taking it in and giving it some thought and allowing it to sink in, sometimes it takes me to these different kinds of places. And so when it talks about, especially this one phrase, and I kind of giggled when it was read. Every time I read it, I've kind of like laughed. And that is where it says, it is impossible to deal sympathetically with people like that. And when I read it for the fourth time, I think it is the third or fourth time here in front of you, is that this takes me in a couple different areas. And so you're dealing harshly with people when they aren't living in a way that is godly. But when we're talking about family, and this is where it takes me, and I'm trying to dance around something here, is that I have an older daughter who's 26, and when she was being raised as a child, I was just kind of beginning my walk with Christ in many ways. But the person I was married to was not related to her, right? So you have a stepmother type of thing, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for this at some point. But the way that the mother, dealt with it with my daughter was that, like, my daughter was not walking necessarily in Christ because she was young. She was only 6 or 7 years old. But you can hit somebody over the head with a hammer when they're not being godly. But when you're doing it, they're not ready, right? They're not ready to be hit over the head with a hammer, because you have to show them the way of God, right? You have to make sure that they understand what it means walking with Jesus Christ. If you're it's like oh my gosh, I'm gonna go back to training dogs. If you have a dog that you pick up at the shelter that's not been trained, and then when you tell it to sit, it doesn't sit, and you say, "You stupid dog, you're a moron. How come you don't know? How come you don't sit when I tell you to sit?" But the dog goes, "You've never taught me how to sit. How why are you hitting me when I'm not? I don't even know what you're even saying. I'm a dog, right?" And not to say my daughter is, in relationship to a dog, but that's the same thing with people. I think that when I'm reading this, there must be a time, I think, where, and I think it says that later on, is that once somebody professes that they are godly or that they are a Christian, then we can come back and say, all right, listen, you said you want to be held accountable. Now I'm not going to be sympathetic to you because you know what this means. You know what you're supposed to do. And I'm thinking, if I'm wrong, let me know. I haven't seen one comment yet, but I have more people watching today than I did yesterday. That is when. And I'm going to go in an area, and I can see Hedia from where I'm at right now, so she'll give me the high sign if I'm going in an area that I'm not supposed to. But I've already talked about this online about as we are in this relationship and not being married, that we, there's certain lines that we can't cross, right? I talked about that before, and we've talked about it, and we've agreed that that's one line we can't cross. And we kind of laugh because there's a couple people in our life who one of my friends said, I was so mad when I saw you were at Hedia's house early on. It was like, a month into our relationship, I had COVID and I was over at her house and she was taking care of me. And he didn't know the whole backstory. And he says, I was mad that you were over there already staying the night over at Hedia's house and that you're doing these devotions, living sinfully. And I said, but we didn't, and we don't. And we've already have that agreement. And he goes, oh, I was mad at you, assuming that that's what you were doing over there. And then she said the same thing. She goes, I had friends that did the same thing to me. Like, hey, you're not supposed to. and so there was both. I was kind of like set back, like, I would never ask somebody. But I think this passage kind of is telling us that in some ways, when we are an accountability partner, when we have been asked to be a mentor to somebody in relationship to God, that, and it could be wrong. Again, if somebody, I have no comments yet. I don't know if everybody's just intrigued with what I'm saying or shocked that I even brought up sex. But that I think that's what this passage, I think, in some ways is reminding us as Christians and people that are being looked at as leaders. As somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm walking with God, and I've chosen you as my accountability partner. I need you to hold me accountable." And that, I think, is where this is coming. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to be careful that we don't look at it the other way, that, now everybody who's not godly needs to be following Christ, and we need to hit them over the head with a hammer and carry our swords. You're not Christian. and said, you need to be Christian. And when you're not, I'm going to take you out. And so that is where this thing, and I hope that all made sense. And I want to make sure that I'm doing justice to Oswald Chambers and his devotional. And I want to make sure that I'm reading this right. Again, as I've always said, these devotionals are more for me, and I'm slightly selfish, and I'm doing this for my benefit. And then along the way, I'm hoping that I'm benefiting you too. One last thing that I want to talk about. The coolest thing that I've had happen is certain people who've messaged me or have even messaged Hedia and talked to her and says, hey, I like these things that Andy does. And I have a couple people that I had no idea they were watching, and then I got a mention in a message. And I hope I can say this, and I'm not going to say his name or anything like that, but I represented him attorneys hire me to help people that are in criminal that are in trouble, that are being prosecuted criminally. And so they hire me to look at the case to see if there's anything that I can help them with. Well, the guy that was going to go to jail if I did not find something has been following me. And wouldn't that be great if a guy who had a life that was going in the wrong direction, he was looking at a very long time in prison, maybe life in prison based on a bad decision. And my the thing that I happen to be good at or whatever, an expert at in court, actually did help him. And so he's and I know, so and I rail against people that should be in jail that aren't, but I've gotten to know the guy, and he's pretty nice, and he's a cool guy, and he's following me. And so I hope, wouldn't that be great? That would make the whatever however long I've been doing this, 6 months maybe. I think I've been doing these things maybe 5 months. That out of that come a guy who was definitely headed in the wrong direction, looking at prison time. That somehow a little part of watching what we're doing here is benefiting him. So I just wanted to leave you with that because that was a really positive thing. All right. So as we go into Matthew, which is referenced at the very top of that page, I do want to talk about the harshness of the Bible sometimes. And I think one of the reasons why I love going to Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, where Jack Hibbs is our pastor. And then I also follow Mark Driscoll over, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the right thing to share here. I'll just do that first and then I'll start talking. Mark Driscoll over at Trinity Church in Scottsdale, Arizona, is because of their harshness in the sense that they are willing to talk about, and harshness, that was actually a bad way, their willingness to talk about things that people sometimes may be repelled by and not attend church. Because the Bible can actually be pretty harsh. There's where the harsh comes in. And so let's just, I'm going to read a couple passages here in this Mark, but it's telling you that if you become a Christian, if you begin to really help people or live a Christian life, or even become a little bit forceful in the sense that you're being out there and you're suggesting to people that maybe one of the things that will help them in their life if they follow Christ also is that these kinds of things that will happen. And so let me go ahead and bring, I keep pushing the wrong button because I'm doing something weird today. And that is this area of the passage here. So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. When I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispering in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever acknowledges me before others, and I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. By whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. Do not be supposed that I have come to bring peace to the earth. Oh, wait a minute. There it is. Do not suppose I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man. This is harsh, right? I have come to turn. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their daughter or their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. And the reason I wanted to read that is that it just shows you that this can be a very perilous journey as you begin to read the Bible, begin to know God and follow Christ, and begin to speak publicly and out loud about these types of things. Is that it can cause some problems. And Hedia, and she's on right now, and she's actually inside the house as I'm doing these, is that going from Muslim to Christian, she knew the consequences, and she knew what would happen. And the love for God is that important. Following Jesus Christ is that important. And then eventually those people that may be angry, may hate you, or may have disowned you and stopped talking to you. If you stay strong in your faith, there's a good chance that they may soften up and maybe not become Christian, but they will understand that, even though we've not been talking, I've been seeing that you're different. I've been seeing that you're happy. I've been seeing that you're way happier than you were, right? And then those things will begin to happen. And that comes from being strong in your faith and following God. And so just be hopeful that even though that, it'll cause you to have these problems in your own family, and with your friendships and a whole bunch of areas that it's the right thing to do. And you have to be strong in that faith. Those are the things that are going to cause you to also become unfaithful, to lose your faith, is because ever since I became a Christian, nobody talks to me anymore, right? But he's telling you that's going to happen, right? He's warning you that you start following God, you start talking about Jesus Christ and how he lived, and then he was crucified and came back to life, and you start talking crazy like that, and people are going to start disowning you and saying that you're crazy. That is the devil. That is one of the things that the devil uses to take you away from God. So he's warning you that it's going to, what is the words here? What are the words? Hold on one second. I'm going to go back here. Whoever, where is it? Where is it? I'm so sorry. A man's enemies will be members of his own household. Like he's telling you that's what's going to happen. So that's super important. All right. One last thing I want to take you, which is what I started with in the beginning, is that the shocking shocking thing that I found out about how sinful all of you people are, of course, not me, is that, let me share, and I'm going to show you how this all happened. And so as we're going through that, I decided to hover over right here, as it says, a man's enemies will be members of his own household. You see this little C over here. When you click on it, it takes you to Micah. And so I said, Micah, why would that bring up what's so interesting about Micah? And so as we were talking about Micah, Hedy has this book called Understanding the 66 Books of the Bible. Understanding the 66 Books of the Bible. And so I went to, or she went to, and said, this kind of shares with you different aspects of the Bible and gives you like really short little, you can see it's a small book, and it just gives you really short little kind of interesting things about that particular book. And I'm sorry that I'm kind of moving a little bit. There we go. I'm a little shaky today. Let me just look really quick here, really quick. Oh, good. All right. I'm going to go through these after I get done. So let me get to this part first. And if you need to leave and go to the gym or go somewhere, then I'm going to visit some of the comments and talk about those really quick. But when we went to Micah, what I read in the very first paragraph is very interesting. According to a British survey, an average citizen of the United Kingdom knowingly violates 5 rules a week. Now, do you think people that live in the United Kingdom are better or worse than people in the United States? So that's why I'm wondering, would these stats be higher for us here in the United States, or would they be a little bit less? I don't know. I'm thinking it might be on a pretty even plane there. United Kingdom knowingly violates 5 rules a week. 5 rules would be, I would say, you can also associate those with sins. So 5 rules a week, which amounts to 260 rules a year. So 5 rules a week. That doesn't seem very high. 5 rules a week. So maybe here in the United States, we might be a little higher. So the average citizen violates 5 rules a week, which amounts to 260 rules a year, or 16,250 in a lifetime. These range from jaywalking to littering to piggybacking on someone else's wireless service. Of course, with millions of laws on the books, it's hard for any of us to make it through a week without some kind of infraction. Micah 6:8 suggests a far simpler code of conduct. He has shown you, oh man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. So I thought that was really interesting to see. You know, we may be saying and thinking that we're really good people or we're a really good person, but when you look at that, you go, oh my gosh, yeah, there might be like, again, looking at something, touching something, listening to something that would be better off not being listened to. Those little things begin to add up over a lifetime, and just being more cognizant of all those opportunities you have to not be sinful. See how I turn that around, is way more important. So let me go ahead and look at a few of these comments really quick. And Deborah's on. Nice to see you, Deborah. There we go. Hey there. Look at these. They're just having conversations on my dime. How dare you? Anne's here watching. I'm glad you found us, Anne. I know that can be challenging sometimes. That's a gift. We should unwrap it and let. Oh, these are just all. You guys are just talking to each other. No one's talking to me. Nobody cares. Have a blessed week. Oh my gosh, how dare you guys? but instead of moments that take our breath away. Yes, 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 yes. All right, my friends. The only other thing that kind of came up as I was thinking about it here is where was that? We must drive the message home so forcefully. Hold on. When you're sensitive to God's way, the message soon. Hold on. I'm reading. 1 second. Shoot, where's that one, Pat? There's one really important thing here. That if you are sensitive to God's way, your message as his servant will be mercilessly and insistent coming to the root. There will be no healing. We must drive the message home. Oh my gosh, you can never be that. Drive it home. There's some words here. Hold on. Oh, here it is. If a person cannot go to God, it is because he has something secret which he does not intend to give up. He may admit his sin, but would no more give up the thing than he could fly under his own power. And this is what reminded me of the gentleman that I told you that I helped in a court case, is that you know you have the sin. I'm going to go with gambling. You have the sin of gambling, and you say, "Oh, I know I shouldn't do that," and you keep admitting about the sin that you have, but yet you continue to now go online. So you've changed from maybe going to the casino, but yet you're still gambling online. And I think that's also what it's saying, is that we can continue to admit that we shouldn't be doing this thing, but the underlying problem that we still have, we still will now begin to hide it. And just to realize and think about those things that you may be doing in your life, that you tell people that you acknowledge the sin that you had, and you're saying that you're doing better at it, all that kind of stuff. But yet when the lights are turned off, or when you're not in front of people, or when you're home alone, you go back to that sin and you're still not willing to give it up. So just think about those things. And again, and this has to do with narcotics, right? My court cases typically have to do with narcotics. And so I was really trying not to go that area, but I cannot talk about it without saying that narcotics is that very thing, that drug, Oxycontin, a whole number of different things that you know are sin. You tell people that you're not doing, but secretly you're still partaking of those types of things. So just if that's kind of going on in your life, I would encourage you that if you need assistance in trying to work through those kinds of things, that you seek it, and whether it's counseling or contacting myself or somebody else that can kind of help you through that would be something that you should consider. But those are the hardest things, right? Those things that you can, when you're out with people, you look perfectly fine, but in the darkness and by yourself, or when nobody's looking, that you are still partaking in those things that you know that you shouldn't be doing. So if you need any help with that, let us know. All right, my friends, I love you guys. And I'm on the wrong page. And I appreciate you watching. A new comment. Have a great day, Deborah. You too, Carl. Nice to see you. I appreciate you watching as always. All right, my friends, I love you guys. Take care, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.